In fact, I must thank Dr. Dilip for this opportunity, first of all. Basically, I'm a by profession. I have been practicing librarianship for about 15 years now. I'm fortunate enough to work with MS Swaminathan Research Foundation when they really launched a classical project called Information Villages about a decade ago. I was part of MS Swaminathan Research Foundation when they really launched it. So I have in touch with ICTs for development. In fact, I'm just monitoring it. I'm not really part of the group who are putting the technologies to rural areas for their empowerment through information. In fact, yesterday and today, I'm really got a lot of inputs. After a long time, then I am attending a consultation on ICT for development, particularly for agriculture. And I had a feeling the whole idea of taking technology to rural poor, the role of public sector was a question because I had back-to-back presentations from private companies. They are masters in technology. I'm really so happy to see Dr. Vadivelu's presentation now because the public sector has a complete approach over the ICT for development in agriculture. Market is the last component. In fact, in his presentation also, he put the market under the last component. So problems in agriculture. In fact, I'm going to discuss about the agricultural research system, first of all. I think I studied some Royal Society reports last week. I happened to because for my research purpose. I think the developed countries are slightly away from the production syndrome. Now they are moving towards the sustainability concepts. So their research spillovers will come to India or other developing countries will take longer time. And India and other developing countries are still in the grip of production syndrome. India is maintaining a production surplus, but maintaining the surplus is bigger challenge really than achieving production surpluses. We have lots of problems. Sustainability is more important. It's more than the farmer's income. And ICT for development should be, in fact, deployed for the agricultural practices to a massive scale first. I think we have to educate them about what are they really doing and what are the problems that are emerging, and they have to produce from the same land more and more and more. The availability of land is very, very low. China and Brazil is producing the per yield per hectare. In terms of yield per hectare, from if you compare India and China, Brazil, and they are doing far ahead, or they have really grown better. So, as I said, I'm a librarian. I look at the whole issue through information. So I may sound a little bit subjective because my suggestions may not be complete, and you may correct me. First one, please. Yeah, if you see the main intention of the international and national agricultural research systems, their immediate responsibility is to see their research reaches to the ultimate users, which include farmers, farmers, food processors, fishermen, and so on in an easily understandable format. Somehow, this did not emerge when the agricultural research systems emerged. They followed the principles of other scientific community. In fact, the other scientific community communicates their research findings through journals. So the agricultural research system, though they have a primary mandate to really reaching the primary users or primary stakeholders, they didn't take up that job properly, and then they followed the whole scientific communication system and they started communicating in journals. Next one. So agricultural scientists are also publishing their results in journals, in thousands of journals, in thousands of peer-reviewed journals. Because that is related to their evaluation. A scientist quality and capacity is judged based on the number of publications in professional peer-reviewed journals, famous journals, impact factor, all that comes up. In journals, they set financial firewalls. Average cost of a journal is about, in agriculture, is about $1,000, which is very high in other engineering and other disciplines. But whatever information that we speak here, the advisories, our portal information, that has to be derived from those scientific contents that are published in journals and tailored to suit our own stakeholders' needs. But they are under the financial firewall. I'm looking at this advisories in a broader infrastructure perspective. Then if you ask me to prioritize, I would first prioritize to create a strong information infrastructure. The chain should be strengthened. It should be built on. For any advisories, yesterday they were speaking about crop practices advisory. The information cannot come from wide. It's not that a few scientists sitting in the back door and giving advisories like a doctor system in medical practices. It's not a viable system. You have to bring all those information into public domain and ask the crowd to judge. That is the spirit of the mode. So all these research information should come to public domain for all possible would-be users, and curious minds can use, add value, tailor it, and then create knowledge snippets. That would be a viable solution as a librarian point of view. Next slide, please. Well, let us look at the publications of research sector of various countries here. USA, it's a data between 2004 and 2008. This is based on CAB Abstracts, one of the leading library databases, secondary databases for agricultural information. See, if you look at from 2004 and 2008, even the world share of agricultural research output is reducing in almost all countries except China and Brazil. China is moving ahead very fast, like other sectors, even in agriculture. Brazil, they have a unique system of sustainability is their core. Even then, they are improving a lot in terms of number of publications. Even US, the number of research papers, though it's going high, the world share of agricultural research output is really down. There are lots of players with lots of variation. India is in the third, and in 2004, it has published 14,543 papers, and in 2008, 22,000 plus papers, and 2010, which is really more and more. Next one. Well, if you look at, then I further looked at in 2004, where Indians published. Indian scientists, agricultural scientists, predominantly publish in Indian journals. More than 73% of their papers published in Indian journals, which is about 10,104 papers out of something around 13,721 papers are published in Indian journals, just 254 Indian journals. These Indian journals differ in quality. They are largely invisible in other parts of the world. They don't have access to all this information so that the Indian research output can be used and built on by China. Brazil is largely handicapped in this because most of the Indian journals, they don't even have a web presence. That's a problem. The journals are not easily accessible to them. These journals are not indexed in primary databases that United States scientists or United Kingdom scientists like Web of Science, they are not indexed. And so the Indian research visibility as a whole is very low. If you take China's research outputs, more than 50% of their research outputs are published in Chinese journals. unless these information comes to public domain, it's very, very difficult for us to create the information infrastructure for those, what we are speaking here, the advisory snippets, and all that can, it's a tough job after that. This is a very serious issue. Yeah, it's a small graph. The agricultural research is the second largest field in India, next to chemistry. They are publishing slightly more than the world average. But the impact, citation impact of our Indian research output is much, much lower than the world average, because Indian research is invisible. I am not talking about the quality of the research done in our Indian laboratories, but it is largely invisible, is my argument. So the solution is open access to the primary agricultural information is key for ICT innovations in agriculture. I is the backbone. Information is the backbone. It's not technology. Every one of us, as you say, have mobile phone and using it for various purposes. Delivery is very, very easy. Once you have a proper information infrastructure and associate credibility with it, and then add user feedback, values, like the way the crowdsourcing research is done, then it would be fantastic. And open access is the only solution. Why I'm saying the scientific information coming to public domain? See, I have mobile phone. Let me put me. I'm a farmer, but I'm a librarian. I have a family. I have many. I'm dependent on many information sources for my day-to-day practices. Let me share a personal incident to you. My son got a unique phenomenon in his teeth row called shark tooth or something. 2 rows came in one at the growing stage. Then I got a fear. Then, okay, naturally, now every one of us are really going to internet and see what's the problem, is there any advisories available. Then there were millions of suggestions available for it. Then which one I should believe? There are a lot of people who say it's not a problem. How can you believe? Then is there any doctor suggested us? They claim they are doctors. Even then I'm not convinced. But one advisory which linked to an article in PubMed, and then they say it's a very common problem, it's scientifically proved, and it's studied in many countries, then I had a confidence that it can be, it's a right one. Unless you associate, if you want to take science-based solutions for agriculture, then you have to attach it to the scientific articles, values or something. And this morning I was, when the education things were presented, the Google is giving millions of results. Every one of us, if you consider availability of information is the only parameter that dictates the expertise of an individual, every one of us are experts. Now we have to sift the relevant and impact credible one. If she types soil science, it gives millions of hits. But if you go on search in Wikipedia, the number of articles on improved crop practices are very low. Even if you take that as a count, if you type my name, it will give you 10,000 results. Google results doesn't mean that it gives accurate information or something. But when you see, look at the crowdsourced products like Wikipedia or something, the agricultural presence is very low. In fact, the way the medical information has spread, the agricultural information has not made such progress the way medical information, medical practitioner, medical suggestions have come, medical information as a whole have come. My next one. So considering all that, we are proposing a low-cost solution. In fact, India and developing countries are looked at only for the low-cost innovations by the developed nations nowadays. What we do is it's an open source tool built, a repository built on open source tool. It complies some international standards like OAI PMH, Open Archives Initiative for Protocol for Metadata Harvesting, and in which we archive all our local research outputs. So you may ask the publisher's permission, may deny you. In fact, more than 80% of the publishers allow authors to post their postprint of their research, I mean final refereed draft, in their institutional repositories. So we just capitalize that loophole and we archive all our local research outputs in a lawful manner in this repository. This repository now is a home to more than about 5,800 documents, from the first annual report to the latest research paper published in Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, USA. Everything is documented. This is a single interface which is available for all possible would-be users who can use and build on further. As expected, in a year span of time, it got more than 130,000 downloads and many requests from various countries. The request comes from 60 or 75 countries across the globe. As he said, there is a notion that agriculture is not an internationalized domain. It is locale specific. All that has been emphatically posted, that the notion is very common. But this morning when Dr. Vadivelu was presenting, a local innovation can help a national innovation and even for the international innovations. We have to have all the public research outputs into public domain from developed countries to developing countries. Then these advisory systems reaching the farmers and particularly the smallholder farmers community. If you want to actually give proper information for their improvement, this research information has to come to the public domain is a clear precondition here. To come back to my repository, more than 6,000 visitors our repositories is, and we spend only $60 per month to maintain our repository. What we do, next one. What we do is we have just started the advocacy and campaigning to convince our ICAR and other research organizations in our country to set up such repositories and archive all their research outputs in that repository. Then, as they are complying to one single standard, we can harvest all the metadata and create a national, international, subject-specific database, which will come to public domain, which are core agricultural research literature, from which, and agricultural literature, this information comes in. In fact, we can tailor it. The second level products, like the one Dr. Vadivelu has created for TNAU portal, the Rice Knowledge Management Portal, Agropedia, and other kind of initiatives can take help of those scientific information, remove the jargons, and make a simplified article and create knowledge snippets in the form of advisories will be possible. For that, the core infrastructure should be open access to science information. The second one is, it is not only about the final research outputs, it's about data also. In published articles, it gives only the representative data for an article to be complete. Most part of the critical data is largely detached from the published conclusions. Unless we have these full data sets related to agriculture, and it's a data intensive paradigm. Agricultural is no exception. Agricultural research is also is highly data intensive. And unless we get the core data into public domain, the crop modeling and other practices will be really handicapped. If it is available online in a reusable, repurposable, or to put it in one word, it's an intelligible data set, then the modeling, crop modeling, and data mining, and then new conclusions, new visions, new way of looking at things can emerge. So we have set up a